We are back. All Things Brewers is back. All four of you, we're back. Um, yeah, I mean, I took 2, 3 months off. I had plans to do, like an off-season video. I wanted to talk about the season before, give out some awards, talk about the guys who had good years, some things to look forward to for next year, all that kind of stuff. Then we got swept in the NLCS, and it was deflating. It was dominant, and just didn't really feel like talking about the team, if I'm to be completely honest. We're back. Some things have happened very slowly. It's been a very uneventful offseason for the Brewers so far, to say the least. But this is coming one day after the deadline to sign guys to arbitration contracts. We'll get into that, and we'll kind of talk about what is maybe still to come. So the biggest thing in today's news, William Contreras and the Brewers do not have a deal for next year. For anybody unfamiliar with arbitration, if you're one of the sickos that's watching me talk about baseball, you probably know about arbitration. But basically, the team says, this is what we want to pay you. The player says, this is what I want to be paid. The two go back and forth. If they can't reach an agreement, then it goes to a panel, and the panel doesn't choose a compromise. They choose one side or the other. They say, you will get paid what the team says, or you will get paid what the player says. Usually teams try to avoid going to hearings because they're notoriously messy. It's basically the team getting up and saying, this is all the things that we don't like about the player. These are the reasons we should be able to pay them less. These are the things they're not good at. And it was kind of a big story a couple years ago because the Brewers went to a hearing with Corbin Burns, and Burns didn't take too kindly to what the Brewers had to say, and fair enough. I mean, this is a Cy Young winning pitcher, and the Brewers went in there and basically were like, oh, his strikeout rate's going down, all this kind of stuff, and it was messy. So the team and the players still have time to come to an agreement before the hearing itself takes place. But as of now, Brewers and William Contreras are apart. Interestingly, the highest figure a catcher has ever been given in their second year of arbitration is it's 8.55 million, I think, and that's whatever the figure is. That's what the Brewers filed for. Will Smith, Dodgers catcher, set that mark before, and the Brewers were like, we'll match that. We'll put you on that tier. That's where we want to be. And Contreras came back with 9.225, I think is the figure. And he said, no, I'm worth more than that. I think I should set a new precedent, set the bar high. So we'll see. I mean, I think if this goes to a hearing, I think Contreras probably gets the benefit of the doubt because realistically, there's inflation in baseball contracts in the world, and they're not far enough off that like Contreras' ask is unreasonable. So we'll see. I would not be surprised if they kind of find a compromise in between now and the arbitration hearing. But we'll see. He's the only Brewers, the only member of the roster that did not come to an agreement prior to the deadline yesterday. So guys like Garrett Mitchell, Bryce Sprang, Andrew Vaughn, everybody came to an agreement. Everything's ironed out. So really, the roster so far looks very similar to what it looked like last year, for better or for worse. The only real notable move was the Isaac Collins trade. Isaac Collins is a Royal now. He's no longer a Brewer. The Brewers traded him for Angel Zerpa, who's a lefty reliever, which makes sense, especially when you kind of see what the Brewers roster was looking like, or what their pitching situation was looking like, especially against the Dodgers last year. How Aaron Ashby had to grow a mechanical arm to be able to pitch every Shohei at bat. It felt kind of makes sense that the Brewers would go out, seek a lefty. Theoretically, you're trading from a place of depth. Outfield is assuming that a guy like Garrett Mitchell can stay healthy. You brought in Akil Baddoo, maybe. You picked up Brandon Lockridge last year at the deadline. Like you have guys that can kind of slot in and out, and fill the role that Collins filled last year. Maybe not to the degree that Collins filled it last year, but we'll see. I think my reading of this is that the Brewers are kind of banking on the Garrett Mitchell experience this year. I was really excited about Mitchell going into last season. I'm slightly less excited about Mitchell coming into this season, just because before it was, the injuries felt a bit freakier before, and now it's like, okay, you can't have a freak injury every year. Like obviously there's some concerns regarding your durability, but when he's healthy, for the most part, he's been good. So we'll see what Garrett Mitchell provides this year. Because if you have an everyday outfield of Mitchell, Frelick, and Churio, it's pretty good. Not a lot of balls landing in that outfield. And I think that Churio's long term position is probably not in center field. He played a good center last year. He really did. Um, he seems like a guy that's a little bit prone to like a really bad play, if that makes sense. Like he makes a lot of really good plays, and then every now and then he just has like a one like really bad one that ends up being kind of costly. So if you can get Garrett Mitchell back healthy playing center, that's fine. Isaac Collins was it's probably like a sell high moment. I don't know how sustainable the Isaac Collins success from last year was going to be. He wasn't really the same in the postseason, so there's a lot of ways that you can like kind of cut this up and look at it. But bringing in an upside lefty reliever is always good. And I mean, in theory, you got guys in the farm too that could kind of fill an outfielder role. You kind of expect Churio to take a step forward this year. It felt like we were so close to getting the real breakout. He was so hot last August, and then he had the hamstring issue that just never really went away. So maybe year three, don't get off to as slow of a start, and you get like the real, like 850, even like 900 OPS Jackson Churio, who has like a consistent spot in the outfield. You don't have to move him around as much, and he really settles in and becomes like the guy. I mean, he's only making 7.25 million this year, which for a guy whose floor, if he's healthy, is probably 3.5 WAR, is a fantastic bargain. Um, and especially with all that money that Big Woody's getting this year, you got to find discounts where you can find them. And speaking of Woody, I think with the buyout for the previous contract, like with the mutual option being declined, that was like 8 or 10 million, and then the $22 million qualifying offer. I think Brandon Woodruff is now the highest paid single season Brewer of all time. He's it's like a 30. He's basically got like a 1 year $30 million deal. We'll see about that. I mean, you were kind of between a rock and a hard place with Brandon Woodruff. You couldn't just let him walk because somebody's going to sign him. So you kind of had to attach the qualifying offer. But in attaching the qualifying offer, he's probably going to take it. And for some teams, a 1 year, $22 million contract for a starting pitcher with upside is like, we'll see. There's no such thing as a bad 1 year contract. And there isn't to an extent. Like, if Woodruff is bad or if he's hurt this season, it's done and dusted. And, you're not on the hook financially going forward, but it's difficult because I think it kind of restricts what the front office is going to be willing to do in other areas of the roster. And there were reports coming out a while back that if Woodruff didn't take the qualifying offer, the Brewers would keep Peralta. If he did take it, they would trade Peralta. And I don't know how true all that is, but Woodruff getting paid the amount he's getting paid means you really want to get like a resurgent Brandon Woodruff season. The Sorry, I'm not being very articulate. Here's the issue with Brandon Woodruff this year. If he's good, Great, you're getting your money's worth for this year, but you're not going to be able to re-sign him because he's gonna be 33 come the end of this season, and if he's good, somebody's going to sign him to like a 3 year, $65 million contract. And the Brewers aren't going to pay. If he's bad, you're paying a guy $30 million this year to not be good, and you're also not going to re-sign him. Like it's kind of the Woodruff situation is so weird, and I respect the Brewers for not just giving up on a guy who's been great for your team, has meant a lot to the franchise, has one of the most iconic moments in team history with that homer off of Kershaw in the playoffs. But it's a contract that even if you get like a peak Brandon Woodruff season, you're still paying him basically market value, for this year. So you're also then you can factor in the money that you saved on Rhys Hoskins. You're not paying Rhys Hoskins this year. His contract is up. We were all happy about it when it happened. Didn't work out, but good on the Brewers for taking a shot on a guy. That money comes off the books, and it's like, oh, cool. We got like $17 million coming. Where are we gonna put it? We put it all in Brandon Woodruff. It is what it is. But it kind of means that there's a lot riding on Woody this year, especially because the other big talking point is I don't think Freddie Peralta will be a Brewer come opening day. I've gone back and forth on the Freddie situation, and whether it is copium or not, I've kind of reached the conclusion that I think we should trade Freddie. Here's why. The value that you can get for trading Freddie Peralta at his current salary before the season starts is, I think, just too much to pass up. If Peralta has a bad first half where God forbid he gets hurt, you get nothing. I mean, you can attach the qualifying offer to him, but depending on the injury or something, he might take it. And then you're kind of stuck in a Brandon Woodruff V2 situation where you're paying a guy more than you want to, more than you say that you can, even though of course they could spend more. And then when he's a free agent the year after, you can't attach a qualifying offer to him and you lose him for nothing. This year, I think it is worth trading him because honestly, Freddie's due for a little bit of regression. And what I mean by that is the ERA and the FIP from last year did not line up. Freddie kind of overperformed what he was expected to, and a lot of that was because he was a dog with runners in scoring position. He had one of the lowest batting averages against with runners in scoring position that I've ever seen, and it's not a sustainable recipe. Like his FIP was somewhere closer to like 4, whereas his ERA was right around 3, and I just think that while $8 million for Freddie is a total bargain, a team with a bigger payroll will pay a premium to get him at a discount so that they can go out and sign somebody else. The Brewers are just not in that position. And I think that while Corbin Burnes was the better pitcher at the time of being traded, Freddie might fetch you more value because the even the free agent pitchers left on the market aren't any better than Freddie Peralta realistically and are going to cost way more. So for a team like Boston, like Baltimore, like kind of dealing from your prospect depth and taking in a guy like Freddie, even if they just keep him for the year at only $8 million, that's too good of an opportunity to pass up. And I think that the Brewers are kind of waiting for the free agency and trade market to kind of run its course because then, we've got the premier guy. You struck out on everybody you were going for. We still have Freddie Peralta. I think Burnes got traded on February 1st a couple years ago, and I think we're going to see something similar with Freddie. The Brewers went from saying we are not trading Freddie Peralta to being like, we'll listen. And I think that says a lot about the value that Freddie has in the league, some of the offers that are coming in, I think they're kind of realizing that they're going to get a deal that they feel is too good to pass up. I don't think Freddie starts the season as a Brewer. What does that mean for the rotation? I mean, Woodruff, assuming he's healthy, is entrenched as a starter. Um, and past that, I mean, you've got so many pseudo relievers, pseudo starters. You've got a bunch of guys who are in a 2018 Brandon Woodruff situation, essentially, where it's like, we're going to try and turn you into starter. Hopefully it works out. Chad Patrick was so electric out of the bullpen in the postseason. That's something you don't really want to mess with. Mizorowski was so electric out of the bullpen in the postseason. At least one of those guys has to be a starter. I'm guessing Miz is going to have the longer leash at becoming a starter because I think there's less questions about how effective he can be coming out of the bullpen. So I think they're going to try and slot Miz back into the starting rotation. You might even see some Aaron Ashby starts. I mean, they've still got 2 guaranteed years on the extension they signed him to, plus 2 club options. So, why not see if you can get some additional value out of that deal? See if you can turn him back into a starter. Who I mean, Tobias Myers maybe, like, it's kind of gonna be Woodruff and a bunch of guys, and hopefully a couple of them hit. You know, realistically with the Brewers and pitching, a lot of times they do hit, which is good, but we'll see. And obviously that also depends on what you get back for Freddie, right? Because when you traded Burns, part of the return was DL Hall, who, while he hasn't really factored into Milwaukee's rotation in the last 2 years, was supposed to be. That was part of the trade off. We're sending Burns away, but we're getting a guy who's theoretically um, ready for the big leagues and can slot right into our rotation. Hasn't gone that way so far. It could still, though. Like, Hall was kind of fine at points last year. He was hurt. Like, what does a healthy DL Hall look like? I don't know. There's a lot of ifs when it comes to the pitching rotation. Um, the bullpen, I think you can feel pretty good about. McGill's coming back theoretically if he doesn't get traded, and he can kind of be your guy. If you do trade him, you rebase slots right into the closer spot, and then any of the guys that you are hoping make the leap as starters that don't work out have all proven they can be successful out of the bullpen. Koenig's coming back. Like, you've got a lot of arms that can fill bullpen slots. That's not a worry. The lineup is going to look almost exactly the same, minus Isaac Collins and either plus Garrett Mitchell, maybe Akil Baddoo, maybe Brendan Lockridge. There's going to be some kind of rotation there. But Vaughn, Terang, Contreras, Ortiz, Durbin, Churio, Frelick are all kind of entrenched. Those are 8 guys that are going to start the majority of the games, health permitting. There's been a lot of talk about the Brewers maybe going after first baseman, or at least somebody who can play first base that hits from the left side. That would kind of be your Jake Bauers-esque replacement. Ryan O'Hearn was a name that was thrown out a lot. He signed in Pittsburgh. I think the Brewers are a little apprehensive about giving Andrew Vaughn the everyday slot, and I think they kind of want a guy that can hit lefty. But if the value's not there, I think they're fine running Jake Bauers back out for another season. Which, Jake Bauers baseball is Jake Bauers baseball. I have notoriously been out on Jake Bauers since we picked him up, and he hasn't really done anything to me. I think everybody's kind of got one of those players that they just irrationally are like, get this guy off my team. I'm sorry, Jake Bauers, you seem like a really nice guy, and you honestly have had some really big moments for the team, but I just can't stomach another Jake Bauers season. There's still there's so many questions with this team, and they haven't done anything yet. They just haven't done anything that's even been worth talking about. That's one of the other reasons I've been gone. What is there to talk about? What have they done? I think the Peralta trade is coming. As far as extension candidates, I don't think they will sign anybody to an extension. They've kind of shown that if they are going to extend people, it's guys who are big league ready but haven't really hit the big leagues yet. Like they did it with Ashby, they did it with Churio, obviously. And there's not really anybody in that situation right now that warrants an extension. We're we're probably going to finally see Cuero get called up to play behind the dish. He's probably going to be your second catcher behind Contreras. He's a defensive first guy, can hit a little bit. He'll probably factor into the season a lot. He's your, Danny Jansen is out. Cuero's probably in. I expect him to make the opening day roster. He did well enough at AAA last year. Um, so he probably slots right in, but he's not really a make sure you lock this guy up for the long term kind of guy. If he comes up and shows that he can hit big league pitching, then maybe he becomes your William Contreras replacement, and then maybe in a year we're talking about a William Contreras trade. I don't know. Cuero feels like one of those guys that could have been put into a package to get a big name in the last year or two. They never did. They held on to him, and so now he's going to be a part of the team. I think he's still a top 100 prospect, but I don't think that he's valued as like a top 100 prospect. So he's going to play, and we'll see what he can do. Other than that, a lot of the Brewers farm system, a lot of the guys are a few years away. All those infielders, Pratt, Payne, Yamade, they're years away. You've got a couple guys who are still technically rookie eligible, be it Mizorowski, Patrick, or maybe not rookie eligible, but are still, they don't have a full year of service time. So Mizorowski, Patrick, Logan Henderson's gonna get some innings this year. So like you've got young arms, and I don't know. I don't know. The Brewers have. It's so funny because I'm on Fangraphs. I'm on Roster Resource. Their payroll right now is projected to be $11 million higher than it was last year, and they haven't added anybody. They've subtracted Reese Hoskins, and their payroll's going up. So don't expect them to make any. Don't expect them to make any moves. Um, if there's one thing I could wish for, it would be a Bryce Turang extension. But even then, I think you're kind of buying high. I think what he did last year is replicable, but I also think that there's a chance that it doesn't get replicated, and then you're paying a guy for what he did last year, and maybe that's not who he is. So I think you want to see another year of him doing it, but then he's going to price himself out of a Brewers extension. So, you know, what am I to say? That's really all I have for now. Um, obviously, if the Peralta rumors pick up, we can talk about potential trade packages. That's probably the next video that's coming, but that's all I've got for you. Stay frosty.